In a peaceful little village by the cool green river, there lived an elderly woman named Mei Ling. Her small house was nestled amidst a garden of vibrant flowers, where each petal seemed to whisper love to the wind. Everyone in the village cherished her for her kind heart, always willing to listen and share. What made Mei Ling special was her ability to find joy in the simplest of things. The birds singing in the morning, the sunlight filtering through the leaves, or simply a flower blooming in season. One evening, as the sky was painted with deep purple hues and the sun sank behind distant mountains, a stranger quietly entered Mei Ling's garden. He was a wanderer, with doubtful eyes and a weary soul. But instead of showing fear or anger, Mei Ling merely smiled gently. "What are you searching for?" she asked. The stranger was puzzled, unsure of how to respond. And at that moment, under the soft moonlight rising over the river, a magical story began between the wise old woman and the lost soul. Anne stood frozen in the garden, bathed in the moonlight, feeling confused. There was no gold, no precious treasures, just the subtle fragrance of flowers, the gentle breeze rustling through the leaves, and the peaceful sound of the stream flowing like a lullaby for the soul. At that moment, a soft voice spoke. "What are you looking for in the darkness?" He turned quickly. A silver-haired old woman, her eyes bright yet gentle, stood a few steps away. It was Mei Ling. I thought there might be something valuable here," he stammered, embarrassed to have been caught. Mei Ling was not angry. She simply smiled and pointed to the sky where the moon was casting its soft glow over the garden. "My treasures are not found in silver chests or jewelry," she said. "They are in things that most people overlook, like the moonlight, the sound of the stream, and the peace in one's heart." "But how can you own such things?" he asked, still not understanding. She nodded. "Because no one can take them. That is what makes them truly precious." At that moment, the moon seemed to shine even brighter, illuminating the young man's face, which was both confused and full of emotion. He said nothing more, but quietly sat beside her. That night, he took nothing with him. But when he left, he carried with him something he had never imagined. A small seed of change, sprouting from the simple beauty of a garden under the moonlight. Mei Ling gently approached the young man, her eyes devoid of anger or fear. Instead, she smiled warmly, as though welcoming an old friend. "Hello," she said in a deep, warm voice. "It seems you're searching for something valuable." The young man jumped, awkwardly replying, I thought someone as famous as you must have something valuable." Mei Ling chuckled softly, not scolding him. "Material wealth? I'm afraid I don't have much of that. But if you'd like, I can give you something even more precious." He was surprised. "A gift? What is it?" She did not answer immediately. Instead, Mei Ling looked up at the sky where the full moon bathed the world in its soft light. She pointed upward and said, "I want to give you the beauty of tonight. The moon, the peace in the garden, and the stillness in your own heart." The young man frowned, half skeptical. "But how can I keep such things?" Mei Ling smiled. "Because they cannot be kept. People learn to cherish them. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let your soul settle." He did as she instructed. In that moment, every sound seemed to soften. The wind, the water, the moon, they seemed to merge. When he opened his eyes, he felt something different: lightness, peace, and profound gratitude. The young man hesitated, but Mei Ling's sincere gaze made him feel safe. He closed his eyes as she had asked, took a deep breath, and slowly relaxed his entire body. "Don't think about money or what you lack," Mei Ling whispered, her voice soft like a gentle breeze. "Just feel. Listen to the water flowing. Inhale the scent of the flowers, and let the moon touch your heart." In that quiet moment, a miracle happened. The young man was no longer a thief in the shadows. He stood amidst nature, feeling the vastness and stillness that he had never known. He heard the rustling of the leaves, the babbling of the water, blending with the steady beat of his heart. For the first time in his life, he felt peace. When he opened his eyes, the silver moon seemed to embrace the garden. Under that light, everything shimmered and felt magical. The young man looked at Mei Ling, his eyes brimming with tears. "Is this the gift you wanted to give me?" he asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. Mei Ling smiled. "Yes. No one can steal the moon, but anyone can embrace it. Beauty, peace, and gratitude. These are the true treasures." And in that moment, a small spark of awakening took root in his soul. When he opened his eyes again, the world seemed entirely different. That moonlight was no longer something distant and intangible above, but something close and alive. It was like a silent friend, lighting up the dark corners of his heart. The light reflected off the river, wove through the branches of trees, and even into his heart, where doubt, anger, and desires for possession had once been. He turned to Mei Ling, his eyes no longer filled with the confusion of a stranger. Instead, there was the quiet of someone waking up. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I came here to take something, but in the end, I've received much more than I ever imagined." Mei Ling nodded lightly, her smile as gentle and embracing as the moon itself. "We can't always choose the circumstances we are born into," she said, "but we can choose how we see the world. When your heart is open, beautiful things will find their way to you." The young man stayed silent, then bowed deeply before the old woman. In that moment, his heart felt light, no longer burdened by desires or regrets. He turned away, leaving the garden, not hurriedly or stealthily. For the first time in many years, he walked with his head held high and his eyes clear. From that night, his life began a new chapter. No longer living by deception, he sought ways to live honorably, to give rather than take. That night's moon, and the smile of a kind old woman, had sparked a change within him, a gentle but steadfast flame. The young man walked out of Mei Ling's garden with empty hands, but in his heart was an invaluable gift: awareness. He was no longer a thief searching for riches, but a man who had discovered the true beauty of life. Each step took him through the peaceful village, where the moon still shone gently, as if the universe itself was whispering, "Happiness is not found in what you hold, but in how you feel and share." From that night on, the young man changed. He no longer lived by deceit, but began seeking honest work, sometimes helping people harvest rice, sometimes assisting with cleaning the tea shop in the village. He learned to be grateful for the small things: a simple meal, the morning song of birds, or the smile of a child. And every evening, he would look up at the moon, remembering Mei Ling and the profound, unspoken lesson she had shared with him. As time passed, the villagers grew accustomed to seeing the young man, now a kind soul, always ready to help anyone in need. They no longer remembered him as the one who once sneaked in the shadows, but as someone who carried light within. And he, too, would remember the moon whenever he looked up. One evening, when asked why he had changed, he smiled and said, "I once thought value was something you could take, but now I understand. True value comes from what you give with your whole heart." The story of the young man and Mei Ling was passed down through the village as a gentle reminder. Awakening sometimes comes from the simplest things: a quiet moment, a moonlit night, or an unjudging smile. From that fateful moonlit night, the young man left Mei Ling's garden without any material possession, but with a priceless treasure: awareness, gratitude, and a new understanding of the simple beauty of life. As he walked back, everything seemed to have changed. The wind felt fresher, the stars shone brighter, and the river sang sweet songs. Not because the world had changed, but because he had. He was no longer a thief. From that day forward, he began living a different life, a life of observing, feeling, and giving. He helped the poor in the village, tended to the plants by the roadside, and often shared the story of the wise old woman who had gifted him the moonlit treasure. Gradually, the villagers no longer remembered him as the one who had once sneaked in the shadows, but as someone kind-hearted, carrying light within. And each time he gazed at the moon, he would recall Mei Ling's words: "Carry that beauty with you, and if you can, share it with others." The story of that young man left a profound lesson. True value in life cannot be stolen or bought. It resides in gratitude, in selfless sharing, and in genuine human connections. Giving is receiving. When you share love, you plant seeds of happiness.